Right, it's playing.
Everyone think I must be like Howard Hughes or something. Sitting on my bed all day, just talking to
Howard
you.
Hughes.
Just without the money. Without the money and the fingernails.
I was going to say Howard Hughes had money. You can fly a plane. I'm sure you can. Hang on. Right. Hang on a second. I'm just listening to it. Right, you got to go. 'Cause I'm Mr. Blobby. No. 'Cause I'm Mr. Blobby.
Ready?
Yeah, go on. Whenever.
'Cause I'm Mr. Blobby.
That's good. I think that'll be it. Can I have another one just in case?
'Cause I'm Mr. Blobby.
This is.
I'll tell you what, you
right.
just completely destroying my street cred.
Hang on, there's a fly. Hey, I got it. No, never mind. Right, okay. Kung Fu Loopy nuts are we, me and him and them and me. We'll show you what you can do with a load of forms and knowledge too. Poke the iron, fall back to the throat, chest, groin, kneecaps and smack. Kung Fu Loopy nuts are we, we're all Kung Fu Loopy. Old man Noobs, he's paid his dues in the style of Lau. He loves to preach as well as teach, and he'll show you how. He likes to sweep with his feet when people get gobby. But look at him, he ain't trim.
'Cause I'm Mr. Blobby.
Fat Jim Bob, he's got a gob and his friends all take the rise. After so many years, he's still on his brown and they can't believe their eyes. He thinks he's good, it's understood that his skills are fading. Well, that's alright, maybe he might pay to take my grading. Kung Fu Loopy nuts are we, me and him and them and me. We'll show you what you can do with a load of forms and knowledge too. Poke the iron, fall back to the throat, chest, groin, kneecaps and smack. Kung Fu Loopy nuts are we, we're all Kung Fu Loopy.
Not being able to speak is not the same as not speaking. You seem as if you like to talk. I like to let people talk who like to talk. It makes it easier to find out how full of shit they are.
What the hell did you just say?
You are the new student. Come closer.
You're listening to the Kung Fu Podcast presented by James Still.
Anybody who has some knowledge of Kung Fu can easily defeat you.
And Steve Newby.
Man, you come right out of a comic book.
If you flash him, even for an instant, a defiant eye, he'll pluck it out. And if you throw any American sass his way, he'll snap your back and your neck like they were twigs.
Yeah, we're good to go.
Guys,
we have liftoff.
We have liftoff. Welcome to the Kung Fu Podcast. We're on episode 22. 22 episodes. My name's James Still, and I'm joined as ever by the the martial martyr himself, Mr. Steve Newby, my teacher. How you doing, Steve?
I'm good, yeah.
I'm good. This is a bit of a test for us, isn't it? Because we're actually filming. You listen to this as a podcast.
But now they know I'm sitting on my bed all the time, just eating chips.
This is, yeah. No, not you. You're always training.
You are always eating. It's you are always eating.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Am I?
Well, we'll see now, won't we?
Yeah, well, all my sweeties. Right, we're actually filming this on Zoom So we've moved all our sort of our technical stuff and our editing over to Zoom in order to sort of record our podcast now. So when we put it up on YouTube, people, you'll get the video of us as well. But don't worry, we're completely aware that this is still a podcast. So you can't be doing loads of demonstrating of techniques because we've got a lot of listeners.
On a bed, I can't.
No, I know. Well, that doesn't normally stop you.
No, I know. That's why I keep on knocking my mic in that, and I'm just, you do that, you do that, you do that, and my hands are everywhere.
Is that right?
Yeah, but I can't go back anymore because my earphones are plugged into the speaker, and that's right at the back of the computer this time.
Right.
So until I need an extension, don't I? Really?
Yeah. When
I get an extension, I can stick it right back there, and then you can see all my bed.
There you go.
And,
that's it.
And that'll be it. And then
you
might see my hands move.
Yeah. Right. What I tell you what are we going to talk about today? Because I don't know what.
You were telling me that you had some kind of
the comment
response.
Oh yeah.
From a video I made in 1992, something like that. 1992.
That's right. Now this video was a video of you being pushed into the canal.
Yeah.
I don't know what canal it was. What canal was it?
Near Bridge North. It was near Bridge North. It was, I had a student. I'm still very good friends with her. He was in the group called Dex's Midnight Runners.
You've said this on another podcast.
Have I? Yeah. Well, he's the one that did the video.
Kevin, someone, wasn't it? What's his name?
Yeah. Well, his name's Kevin Adams, but in the group he was called Billy Adams.
Yeah. Well, anyway, on one of the other podcasts, I put a link to it of this video of you doing a sort of self-defense skit next to a canal, and then this girl Joanna pushes you in the canal, and I don't know. I found this really funny comment from this was from like 6 years ago, so it's not like relevant, but it's from someone called Gloucester Baggy, and I don't know I don't know who Gloucester Baggy is, but I thought it was quite funny. Anyway. I'll do it in I'll do it in a London accent sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Why?
Right. I don't know. It just sounds better. Anyway, Gloucester Baggy, he says this. He says, easy, medium, hard, expert, Bruce Lee, what the f***, and Steve Newby. And those are the levels. That's the escalation of skill. So Steve Newbury, rather. That's what he's called you, Steve Newbury. So you're above easy, medium, hard, expert, Bruce Lee, and what the fuck? And I'll beep that out. You are Steve Newbury. That's like the new level of martial expertise. Anyway, he goes on to say, which I thought was quite funny. I've watched this clip 5, and he puts in brackets the word 5 times, and the bloke only asks for a light and gets banjaxed in the Gloucester to Sharpness Canal. Clearly another case of broken Britain! ! To be honest, I for one won't be hanging around this area anymore. Steve, give up the fags, buddy. Oh, and stop jumping out on joggers for f***'s sake. And he finishes with what I thought was quite good. I blame Thatcher. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know where the whole thing came from.
I don't know. Do you think he was on some sort of drug when he wrote
I don't know. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea.
That's quite funny. I thought that was quite funny. I had to read that.
That's brought a tear to my eye, that has.
Yeah. Anyway.
So did falling in the canal.
I bet. Did you have to, was that from the tetanus shot afterwards?
Yeah, well, it took me an hour to make sure there were no bikes in there before we filmed it. Yeah.
Anyway, right. Anyway, so what are we going to talk about? We've got to talk about some Kung Fu.
Yeah.
What have we got? Any suggestions for today's episode? Because we were floating with the idea yesterday when we were having a conflab, weren't we? Talking about people who sort of get to a certain grade in their training. Maybe it's like sort of midway, sort of yellow, purple sash or whatever, and then kind of think, it's a bit of a struggle right now for me.
Yeah, usually that's green sash and purple sash.
Right.
People get to a certain point where they just go, I don't like this stuff, or I'm not sure about, how to make this happen or make this work, and so on. And that's just the basic syllabus, I mean, remember, we say this every time on the podcast. The syllabus is only a vehicle to give you, training options or enthusiasm, if you like, because it's so hard to learn from a syllabus. Everybody just wants to drop the syllabus and kick 7 bags out of each other, and that's great, but you're not going to get any better if you do that. So it's a lot of training, a lot of repetition, and so on. And that's why a lot of people don't stick it, isn't it? They do go for the easier options.
Yeah, I think when I was that level, I wanted to do a lot. I think I really wanted to get good at the fighting. Problem was I wasn't very good, but I just wanted to do loads more and constantly improve and whatnot. And but you get sidetracked when you're that sort of new to it. I think quite often you
have favorite things.
Yeah, there you go.
You learn something new and you go, oh, I love that. Keep doing that, and then you practice it. And then later on, you think, you know what, I probably wouldn't use that very much. Or I'm not that bothered about that.
Yeah, no, I do. What's your favorite thing? What was your favorite thing when you were
sweeping?
No, I know that. We all know that. I always thought it was like I always thought it was sticking hands with you.
I love the stick in hands, and I love Deutsche, the stick set, the 2-man dual stick, if you want.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite things to train. But I did like Farkun, for instance. They're a simple form, apart from the going down, which is a bit harder nowadays.
Yeah.
But I like what's in it.
Yeah.
I like the way it can be used. I like the way it can be sped up.
Yeah.
All the sets, you see, they're obviously, we talked about this, how sets can be built into, they've got big fat movements and exaggerated movements, and then sometimes you look at people and see that they're still doing those big movements and they haven't actually kind of digested them.
Yeah.
And so, as big movements are, big flamboyant movements. Hey, I'm starting to move my hands again. Careful.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Not until I get a bigger screen, because, like I say, my mic's not. It's not long enough, so I can't. Or my earphones, rather.
Yeah.
So then I'll get out and I'll do little demos if we're going to use a camera.
Yeah, but you got to remember, this is still a podcast, so you can't be like cheating all our loyal listeners.
Well, I don't have to talk about it and just sort of say, oh, we do this and this, and then kind of thing. Yeah. So it might kind of cheat the listeners out of it.
It might do that.
Yeah,
we're all about. You got to get every penny's worth with the Kung Fu podcast, haven't you?
Yeah, the conversation. But people will obviously realise that we don't ever take ourselves seriously, and I think
the problem with that is once you take yourself seriously, you almost carve out a persona whereby people you have to then must be good. You must be good, and you have to exactly. You have to live by it.
Yeah, you live by it, and then so many people actually can't live by it because they're not as good as they thought they were.
Right.
I think
I never want to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
So I would always feel safer in just joking about how crap I am.
Yeah.
And then maybe doing something good. I'd like that.
I think it's called humility. I don't know.
Maybe.
We talked about, what was the other thing we talked about last week that I haven't got?
Do we really want to go into that?
Well, we were talking about, I think one of the things we talked about the other day with the guest that...
you haven't got a filter. That's right.
A filter?
That thing where the brain and the mouth, sometimes the brain says stop to the mouth.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't got one of those.
I'm kidding.
No, we were talking about how... people train martial arts, and then we were talking about the science of martial arts and so on, and how people can discuss and teach a scientific principle. And I said to you, when there's not a science there, when people can't, obviously prove what they're talking about, explain what they're talking about, show what they're talking about, it just becomes a movement, and then it goes from science into a faith-based thing.
Yeah.
I think so.
That is very. With a faith, like, you know, if we're talking in the context of martial arts, the onus is not on you to be questioned, or you don't encourage people to question you.
No, you
as
already
much.
know the answers. You already know the answers, and the important thing for me is that people question you all the time. The more they question you, the more you learn, and the more they learn as well. And what you want, like any science, you know, if you the theory of gravity we were talking about, weren't we? And if people say, well, actually, I can disprove the theory of gravity, and they give you a reason, then everybody who's always believed in gravity from Newton onwards just can go, wow, you know, you deserve the Nobel Prize. They're not going to turn around and say, well, you're wrong. They want to see your calculations. They want to see your facts and your science behind it. And then they're going to obviously say, well, I can't disprove it. So your theory is now the newfound theory for gravity.
Yeah, but it's a sanctuary for people, isn't it? Particularly instructors, and particularly.
What do you mean, the faith?
Yeah, the faith. And
the faith. Yes, it is a sanctuary. It's a cult.
Well, yeah, but the majority of people, I mean, we got to be fair, because, like, you know, money makes the world go round. Let's face it.
No one's talking about money.
No. I'm gonna say the majority of people who instill this sort of faith-based idea in the martial arts, like, you know, are basically running big organizations, and they don't want to be hurt. They would, you know, for the most part. You look at the Shaolin. You look at the Shaolin, down to people in this country running their full-time gyms and whatnot. Now, I'm not slagging off people with full-time gyms, not at all.
Nothing wrong with them.
No, I'm just saying that there comes a point when sort of, you know, your ability to make money through the martial arts, you know, you can't have anything, you know, compromise that.
No, that becomes the important thing. But the fact is, I think missing the point really, because there's a lot of individual people who go through a stage where they maybe can't get enough training. Maybe they have been with an instructor they don't agree with. Maybe they've been with an instructor that they misinterpret the movements, they misinterpret the techniques, and end up doing them their own way. And of course, maybe their character, they don't like being told, they hate the idea, it hurts their ego, they go off, they start their own organization. But that organization could be, you know, one club with about 5 people in it, and from then on, those 5 people are their, you know, disciples, and then they build on that. And that's a faith-based situation where they believe in themselves, and then they convince others to believe in them. And as long as they can convince others to believe in them without proper evidence or real evidence, because remember, those people that believe in them, they don't know what the evidence is. They listen, and they just go, oh, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, but
they don't actually.
I'm talking about damage limitation. Like, you know, like if you've got 5 people in a club who think you're God, then that's not a problem. But if you've got 500 people strewn across an organization, you know, surely that's
it is a
worse.
problem. But how many more individual instructors that are based on faith that have absolutely no idea what martial arts is are there in comparison to successful big organizations?
Agreed. Yeah.
You know, there could be an awful lot of them, and they're all over the place. The worst thing is they can disappear down the cracks without you knowing, and then reappear somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's what they keep doing. They keep doing it, reappearing. They disappear down the cracks when someone finds them out, and then they suddenly appear as something else.
Yeah.
We've seen that so many times in the last 40 years.
Yeah.
How many people I've seen do that. When you go to a course and you go, oh, isn't that such and such? What style was he doing last time? Oh, he was doing our style. Wait a minute. Oh, he's a Wing Chun master now. You know, or like, oh, I'm doing Thai boxing. I'm a black belt at Thai boxing. And
what? I didn't think they had belts in Thai boxing.
I don't.
Oh well. Yeah. Okay. No, it's just it's funny. It's really.
And then
funny.
there's that big escape. You know, get out of jail free card. Jeet Kune Do. You know, let's just make it up as we go along, because Bruce Lee did it, so everyone will think we're great.
Wow.
You know? And that not one of them looked like Bruce Lee, not one of them trained like Bruce Lee, and not one of them understands what Bruce Lee was trying to put across. They just decide to.
If you were making the argument for Jeet Kune Do, what would it be? If you had to make the argument for?
I can't make an argument for it.
Not in any way.
Well, the intention was to make it a simple way of fighting, okay, a direct way of fighting, and to that extent, you can call it a self-defense style, if you want, or self-defense organization. But after that, you know, if you want to talk it martial arts, then, and they say we respect every martial art we take techniques from, then you're completely missing the point, because when you take one martial art and you say, okay, I'm going to learn this and do all the throws, and then I'm going to go and do all the kicks from that one and all the, you know, punches from that one, then really you're kind of missing the point, because any genuine style is going to have all that. But, you know, as we are going to divulge, if you like, later with our guest, who's you know, gone a great way to demonstrating the way the syllabus can not just be the syllabus, but remember it's a vehicle. He's taken it and he's tried to kind of make it compete with other things that other people would otherwise think.
Yeah, but that's
better.
That's nothing new, though. I mean, Lau Gar's done that since its inception.
It has, yeah. But I guess you could say it's you know, at certain stages in time, you have a certain interest, you know, a certain, what's it called when you know, people love skateboards, and then a few years later, they're into, you know, these...
Their attention span, like, wanes. Yeah.
Well, it's not about attention span, but it's certain, you know, the word, I'm trying to think of the word.
Well, speciality or interest or
focus? Yeah. Oh, there's a word, James. Well, we're gonna find that word. You know, I wish I was English sometimes. I really do. So, yeah. Anyway, they have these certain interests, if you like, and then they move on certain directions they want to work on. I mean, it's much like, you know, we talked about MMA, where 1 year they're doing like locks and throws and that, and then they're told, wait a minute, you know, we're going to make it interesting. You can't just lie on the floor for like 20 minutes holding each other down. You've got to get up. So the referee's got to pull them apart and get them up. And let's see a bit of more fighting so we can actually see, you know, a bit of action. But instead, a lot of the time, initially, they were just holding each other down for 20 minutes until one of them gave up.
Well, if in the early...
Or grew old in the process.
No, in the early UFC stuff, there was and this was before they radically overhauled the rules, like radically. Like I'm talking like UFC maybe 3 or 4. There was a really good wrestler, an American chap, who was called Glenn Shamrock, I think his name was. Anyway, Shamrock somewhere. I can't remember his first name, but Ken Shamrock, that was it. And he went. He had the final fight or something, one of the UFCs, with that Gracie fella who won the first one, you know, and we sort of discussed that on other ones. But basically, the entire fight was literally stuck on the floor in what I guess they'd call, like, you know, the guard position, or, you know, a variation of, you know, I'm not au fait with the technical terms so much of, you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, whatever you want to call it. But they're basically on the floor at a stalemate, because if one of them moved, the other one would have capitalized on it. So it was literally like a stalemate in chess. Yeah. And what happened in this fight, it was meant to go on for like 20 minutes, you know, and then they, you know, had to break it up, and you know, because nothing was happening. They broke it up. They went up to standing again, and then, you know, as soon as they were standing, one of them threw a punch, cut the other guy, and, you know,
that was it.
I think that was it. But my point was, like, there was no. It just, the first part of this fight just wasn't moving. You know, it was just stuck, and it was literally that was like telly. It was like, oh, you know, what's happening here? I get that it's like
it's like watching American football.
Yeah, no. But, you know, it's, you could, I don't get that. You say like NASCAR when they're going around in circles, like, Yeah. Mind you, though, I don't mind NASCAR. But it's like, you know, what was going on? You know, this, you know, so they had to change the rules to a point, you know, and all the rest of it. But, you know, that's what you get. And I guess the point is, like, you know, when we talk about traditional martial arts and whatnot, you're probably going to say, well, you know, I mean, we're not aiming to end the confrontation by a submission, but by whatever means.
Yeah. Well, I think the word I was looking for earlier is it's like a fad. You go into this, you know, completely, you know, one way of fighting, and everybody loves it. I mean, in the 80s, like Tiki Donovan was a competition fighter, and he kind of really was interested in axe kicks. That's all he ever did, with that axe kicks straight up the top and down, and they looked phenomenal and everything. Next thing you know, everyone's bloody doing axe kicks, right? So that's you know, the whole kind of concept of the competition fighting, semi-contact, whatever, changed, and started. Everybody was doing axe kicks, and then everyone's doing something else, and then, you know, someone else with a big name comes up and starts doing, oh, we like that, we'll start doing that.
Well, it's like, look at semi-contact fighting today.
Yeah.
Like, the most popular kick is a side kick.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. So you've had this sort of this progression of the fighting styles of semi-contact, and I think we'd agree it's evolved to a much better place now than when it first, you know, the inception of semi-contact, right? Because that's the evolution. It's like, you know, everything is just better in terms of the strategies, the techniques, the fitness, the competitors. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I don't know, because in the old days there were some amazing competitors.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying there weren't. I'm saying that it's like, you look at race car drivers from 60 years ago, you can't compare them to race car drivers of today.
No, but the same as with football, the same kind of thing. You have this situation with, and I'm not saying everybody does that in semi-contact now, but it's more of a game and not a sport.
Yeah,
and we talked about this where in the old days they fought and won on their merits.
I was trying to hoover up a moth. Oh, there he is. Oh, I got him! I got the moth. Shark, available at all good retail shops. That's me, Shark Hoover. He's in there.
Because of your background, James, that looks more like a one of those things of Star Wars.
You mean a lightsaber?
Yeah, lightsaber just comes out every so often and then disappears into your background.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said it looked like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well,
I had to get that one.
Anyway, going back to that. They fought and they won on their merit. And nowadays, with football, with a lot of sport, it's like, oh, ref, you know,
but
fall over.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
You get a lot of that in martial arts as well.
Yeah.
And I watched it develop.
But that's awful to watch. But we are talking about a sport, right? We're not talking about anything other than a sport. We're not talking about self-defense.
No.
Within the confines of the sport, these people are there to win. They're athletic. They're athletes at the top level. You know.
Yeah.
So
some of them.
So I get that.
And what they can't get, they make up.
Yeah, I know.
In other words, oh, I've got injured. Oh, I watched a fight once. I'm not going to name them. Really famous people. One Lau and one karate guy, and they're fighting, and the referee gave it to the karate guy, which I think was a fair thing to do.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he lost, he came up. He goes, look, and he's got an eye, a cut on his eye. He didn't give a toss about that cut until afterwards.
Was this KB?
That's right.
KB. And was it AL? KB
I don't
and
know.
AL?
I don't know about the karate guy.
All right, okay.
Anyway, he had a cut on his eye, and he goes straight to the ref. Look, you know. And you know what? The referee changed the decision, and I thought that was awful.
Yeah.
Just on the merits of his name.
Yeah.
That kind of destroys.
It does, doesn't it? While we're talking about great athletes, I'd like to show The Warrior Within by Mr. Kevin Brewerton. It's a fantastic book. Please get it.
Yeah, well,
not that we were just talking about him.
No, things like that happen, and I think I don't like fights like that.
No,
No, I competed once, and the guy came out. I mean, it was a bit, prejudiced. The guy came out, and I fought this guy, and I'm not a competition fighter or anything, but I fought a lot in the nationals. I had no choice, and and I won this fight. And actually, no, sorry, I lost this fight. But I was hitting the guy all the time with back fists.
Yeah,
and at the end of it, he came over. He says, Steve, he says, you won that fair and square. That was a really good, good effort, whatever. And I went, I know. What can I say? I said, I know, I bloody won. But the guy, the referee, he weren't even looking at my techniques.
Yeah.
He weren't interested. He just, I wasn't a name. I'm not a name in fighting.
Why do we always sort of go back to this same sort of discussion about, sports not being, self-defense and self-defense not being sport? How come? I mean, not that I don't enjoy talking about it, but it's like we do talk about this quite often.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Are we a bit sort of,
bitter?
Are we?
No, it's not that. No, I just think there's a huge realm of interest in sport.
Right.
There's a huge, obviously, realm of interest in self-defense, and a completely different realm of interest in, if you want to call it, traditional martial arts. But then that traditional martial arts is so diverse, and from the completely useless, fake martial arts people that pretend to push people from like 10 feet away, right the way through to people who just brawl and have no real understanding of what techniques can do and how to string them together and how to understand pushing hands or that kind of thing. So there's a huge, it's a massive audience, isn't it? Martial arts as a general rule has got a massive audience, and I think there's so much disagreement with, that's why we always say it's never going to come together, because it can't. It's not the same animal. They're totally different things. So but there's always going to be these people who love self-defense, who suddenly invent martial arts all over again and say that they know the answers, even though it's been there for 4,000 years or whatever. And then,
what makes you? And I don't want you to say, "Oh, it's been proven," but when we always talk about Lau Gar, obviously we're biased, right? I get that,
of course.
But when we always say that Lau Gar is like it's a complete style, or it's a genuine style, don't say, "Oh, it's been proven," because we've had that discussion. What else? What makes a complete style, in your opinion? What makes it?
You mean apart from the fact it's been proven?
Yeah. Above. Where's my alarm? I got to get the alarm. No, but you know what I mean? Because what, in your opinion, are the attributes of a style?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you got to be honest in talking about techniques, and you got to be honest in demonstrating their worth, their value.
Yeah, but what exactly do you mean? I mean, you can talk all you want about worth of a technique and how good a technique
but
is.
When you're teaching it, you're demonstrating its worthiness, if you like, or its value in how it works, and then in the environment that it has to be applied to.
Yeah, but you can't teach the environment in which it's applied.
No, not necessarily. That's true. That's not necessarily. Yeah, that's the problem with traditional martial arts, and it's the problem with self-defense as well. I mean, many people say, my technique works for real. Unless you're willing to get up and start poking each other in the eye and biting each other's ears off, you are not going to prove that, okay? So no one can really prove it. And the bigger man stands up and goes, I'll prove it. I'm prepared to fight. And the others will go, well, actually, I'm not. Yeah. And the only reason I'm interested in fighting is to save my life. Now, if you're trying to kill me, then, of course, I'm going to have to try to defend myself and stop you from doing that. But it may render you injured big time, and no one's going to stand for that.
Yeah, but if we're talking about, like, if you're looking at, say, a Thai boxing gym, for example, right?
Yeah.
Everything they do, they can just go. If they say this will work, they can just say, "Well, go in the ring, show me in sparring then." Because that's the measure by that's the standard by.
That's how most martial arts measure themselves.
But you see how I can understand them looking at a traditional martial art and going, that won't work. This won't work because of their preconceived ideas of what it is. I get that, but you've got to understand as well that not you, but I'm just generalizing. Obviously, you understand. But if you're there and you can prove it straight away in the ring, in sparring, or against a live opponent, or or whatever, then that goes some way into sort of convincing people that okay.
And then you're going straight back to the sport element, where the sport limits its capacity as a self-defense.
Yeah,
and then then you talk about people who've done simply semi-contact kickboxing, and then they beat Thai boxers because of the fact that Thai boxers throw their legs all the way around, for full power, and end up facing the back, facing the wrong way.
Yeah, it's happened, and it does happen.
Yeah, exactly. And someone just jumps up behind them and grabs them and takes them down on the ground. If they're doing that kind of jiu-jitsu type style, falling down and throwing themselves around on the floor. And otherwise people will just, kick at the back of the leg simply because of the fact the guy's turned around. So he's going to try and spin around with a back fist and all that. But if people know what he's going to do, and they're going to close that gap, or they're not going to be in the same position that they expect them to be when they turn around again, or they simply avoid the technique, then it's in the end, it's about the way that the guy has practiced it, but the format in which he's practiced it in, which, sport, self-defense.
And this is what I'm interested in your sort of thoughts on this. What defines, right, a style? Now, you can say, Muay Thai is a style, Jiu-Jitsu is a style, Kung Fu is a style, Karate is a style, right? But I would argue, first and foremost, let's face it, in the context of Muay Thai, which is, and I'm generalizing here, for the most part, it ain't a style per se. It's just a training method or a training direction. They've said, right, you're doing kickboxing, but you can use knees, you can use elbows, and we want a bit of power, It's not so much a style, because we could turn around and train in the exact same way they do.
Mm-hmm.
We could train that way.
Yeah.
There's nothing to stop us. It's just, we're not out there teaching athletics and that level of sport. Do you know what I mean? We've got a few other things we have to sort of do.
Yeah, well, we can train in anything. Anyone can train in any direction they want, but basically what they have to accept is, in a situation like that, they first have to accept the rules of that game.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And the rules traditionally of that method of fighting, as you say, because it's Thailand and everything, and they want to. They go by an awful lot of their traditions.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you've got these people who will say, well, yes, I can fight that. I can do in that method, but I'm going to be limited by what they want me to do. So in effect, a style is really not, or a method of fighting is not necessarily a style, as you say. It's an individual's preference, and dependent on how successful that individual has been or not, because some styles are devised by people who have never had any fighting experience whatsoever, have never proved their style in any way, shape or form, but just say, mine is the best way, mine is the most modern, mine is the most traditional. I found this in the ancient scripts in a mountain, in a cave, underneath,
we did that podcast.
Dirty trainers.
We did that podcast.
Yeah. And that's where these styles come from, and they devise these things. And of course, a lot of the time they're looking for hidden secrets. They find some style from middle of nowhere back in Tibet, and they say, "Oh, wait a minute, we're going to start. We teach Tibetan Kung Fu because no one else does it." Yeah. So it then becomes a sales. Method, and starts plugging it. Now, if they've got a couple of decent fighters, they could probably, they say, we've proved it, because these people can compete. But how many styles actually only ever compete within their own organization?
Yeah, agreed. But you can, if we look at today, Lau really, bear with me on this, Lau does generally just compete within its own organization.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
no.
it does. It does. It does.
No,
it does.
they don't. I promise you. They go out everywhere. I mean,
no, right? Okay. I'm talking generalizing. All right. I'm not talking about the national fighting squad.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the national fight. I'm generalizing.
No, but you see that. Yeah, but that is an avenue that people can take up. And remember, years ago, there was an organization. There was a competition, right? Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
Clash of the Titans was held between the Taekwondo,
yeah,
the British Kung Fu Association, and the karate. Okay, for 12 years, who won?
Oh, okay, yeah.
12 years non-stop, every year, who won?
Yeah,
yeah, and they had to then they just pulled out. They pulled out of the fighting, the team fighting, because for 12 years they never won, ever. Right, simple as that. So
yeah,
when we can't just discuss this without saying we have evidence. It's scientific evidence that it works.
Yeah,
and it works in lots of avenues.
I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying that compared to 20, 30 years ago, the Lau Gar is not out there as much.
No, that's right.
And they're fighting.
Yeah.
So, when you look at the early days of Lau, of course they're out there competing because,
it was a big organization.
Yeah, it was big, and
it was a huge organization. It pulled. It was the leader in tournament fighting.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. It was the leader in tournament fighting. Everyone's copied it, and that's why you've got. And of course, lots of people have left and devised their own styles, organizations, and created and used that. Shall we say that recipe, if you like, of the structure of the way that fighting.
Oh, well, we've discussed this
and turned it round against Lau in effect. And of course, the smaller it gets, as well as I do from past experience, that the smaller groups you take to a competition, the less chance you've got of making a name, because simply statistically, you're not going to win so many fights. But of course, if you take only the best fighters to a competition, then you'll have a much better chance of winning, but only if those fighters are better than all the other people in that competition. And the majority of the time in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, no matter where you went to a competition, and Lau Gar went to a competition, they come home with the trophies.
Yeah.
That's it. So this is why we can't dispose of, if you want, the word proof, evidence.
No,
and
I don't want to dispose of it. I want you to define what makes a style without reverting back to, it's been proven. I want you to classify Lau Gar.
Well, some styles aren't proven. So in terms of the word style, some are not proven, and I've already said, it's down to the individual. Each style is devised by an individual. Now, that individual doesn't have to prove anything. He just calls it something and gets followers. That's what makes a style. So a style, in real terms, what is a style? Because all martial arts can mix if they have the same goal, and the goal is to be good at protecting yourself. Do you see all that? Look, I'm looking Donald Trump.
Strike a pose.
Yeah, no, it's kind of, in the end, people just go, yeah, my style's this, my style's that, and it's down to individuals. That's really all I can say.
When we talk about a genuine style, a complete style, that isn't like, we're not talking about individuals there, are we?
No, we're not. But when we're talking about genuine styles, we're talking a good lineage of style, a good scientific proven base that can be, explained scientifically. That can, what's the fastest thing? Oh, okay, it's a big kick from 7 feet away. Well, I'm sorry. From your foot on the floor, from the rear of your stance to a head is about 7 feet, right? And if you can't throw a punch faster than that, then whoever thinks that foot is faster is living in cuckoo land. But they will say ultimate style. Why? Because it looks great, but it doesn't work to compared to a style that would stand there and close that gap. So your kick becomes very, you know, shall we say, what's the word? Obsolete.
Obsolete, yeah.
Yeah, it becomes obsolete. So as soon as you're fighting someone who likes to do big kicks, you close the gap. As soon as you're fighting someone who just likes to do punches, you lengthen the gap, you stretch the gap a little bit, start using kicks, start using sweeps.
Yeah.
So you change the style for everything, but it has to be scientifically sound strategy. And a lot of people can't apply that strategy to various fighting methods. So you see people like, I mean, jiu-jitsu on the floor, for instance, you know, a lot of people struggle with grappling. And so as we're going to, you know, discuss with our
What do you mean a lot of people struggle with grappling?
If someone is standing and someone jumps at them and tries to grab hold of them and gets them down, there's going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
Okay. So that the individual that favors the standing has got to understand the tactics of the grappler, and vice versa, in order to be able to win, right? In order to be able to back game.
Yeah.
So the biggest problem you've got there is where people say grappling is best or kicking and punching is best. Well, there are reasons that they give, and of course both camps get quite cocky about it. Oh, you know, well, we can do anything, we can do anything. But then when they find this can work against them, you know, then it's disproven, like vice versa. So there's always going to be this constant fight because it's down to individuals. But then you have the science where you have to say, okay, you have to get that grappler to the individual that's moving around and standing about and not allowing him to grab him, if he can move, and only if he can get out of the way, and if he understands how the person's going to do him, and if reach him, and if he, when he does reach him, is able to sensitize that and understand that and change direction and change moods, it's quite feasible to assume that he's going to be able to prevent that grappler, but at the same time, he's throwing punches.
Yeah.
You know, so, but it's the same in a boxing ring. You know, when a boxer gets tired, we say this so many times, a boxer gets tired, he grapples, the boxer now cannot throw the punches because he's been held onto. Okay. Now, if that guy doesn't just hold on to him, but actually throws him down, then the boxer now has a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's always going to be this constant, you know, my style's better than your style kind of thing. Yeah. But all I want is a scientific evaluation of techniques,
right?
Not even style, because the whole style really, it doesn't have a limit.
So if let me just suggest something to you, see if you know what your comments are on it. A complete, if you want, kung fu style will have punches, hand techniques, foot techniques. It'll have joint locking techniques. It will have wrestling techniques, and it'll have weaponry techniques. So there's 5 different elements. Would you agree with that? And I'm not counting heads. I'm not counting. You know, we're just saying hands, feet, joint locking, wrestling, and
elbows, knees, headbutts.
Yeah, but we have to. But should we just say? Could we agree that there's 5 elements there that I've said that are a good style? Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
So where does the weakness exist in our Lau Gar training for us? I would say it exists when we move on to the realm of joint locking and wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. People don't train it enough. And we have talked about this, you know, whether on the podcast or otherwise, whereby in the earlier days that we were training, and this, we're not making an excuse here. It's just simply that people were learning the punches and kicks and the fighting method simply because the popularization of kickboxing.
Yeah.
So that was such a popular thing. But now let's look at the way the world is now, where Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA is popular. That doesn't stop Kung Fu people from competing with individuals or training with individuals that like to, you know, get it down on the floor, get down and dirty, but they have to adapt and learn with them because they've not trained it enough. Just the same as if the jiu-jitsu guy says, you know what, I love that kickboxing, I'm going to compete in that, he's got no chance either, because he's not going to be able to stand. He's not going to be able to stand up and get to that individual trying to punch him and kick him, because he probably doesn't even know how to make a good punch. Okay, so remember that they don't punch that much. They're not going to bandage their hands up in a ring anyway, so they're really not going to have the hands for it. So there is a method of training and a method of protecting each competitor within a sport, but you get rid of the sport and you allow people to train in every variation that you've just mentioned. And it's not as if we're not allowing them. It's just the simple fact that that's the fad we were talking about, where the fad has always been, with traditional martial arts. Let's learn all those methods of different hand positions, different hand movements, sticky hands, weaponry, and all that kind of thing. A vast array of subjects that don't really give you the time, unless you are specifically training for a self-defense method, which on the most part, martial artists, although they believe they can defend themselves in a street situation, and invariably some of them can, a lot of the time they take in training is not for self-defense. And this is where people agree to disagree, is that therefore a lot of people say, well, martial arts can't be used in self-defense. Well, in certain cases they're correct, and in certain cases they're totally off the ball. They have no idea what's capable and what isn't capable, because they have their method of self-defense and they go, oh, well, I'm just going to go for the jugular. Go for the jugular and see what happens in the event that guy understands that you're going for his jugular.
Right.
And once that guy understands, and you've only got that opportunity and a few different techniques that you can use, and he changes the arena to a completely different method of fighting, you're in trouble. So it's down to the individual training. But the style has got to be open.
What would you, in your head, not based on the fact that you've studied Lau and you're that's been your life's work, bias, what would you suggest is the most useful escalation of your training? What do you start with and why, and what should you finish with? I would put this forward. I would suggest that we want to start off by teaching people how to throw a good punch at the at a base level. And that's my opener. Go for it.
That's for sure. And also distances. When people train the most basic things, we were talking the other day about stepping and punching, like number 1 hand block, number 2 hand block, and I have also on other podcasts suggested rather than just simply punch, because as soon as you punch, you're teaching someone a bad distance, time and timing, because they
don't necessarily want to punch people,
so they take the distance much further back, and then as well as stepping, they end up with still a long punch which really doesn't reach the target. So mostly in martial arts you see that. And the other bad thing about that, of course, is then they leave their hands standing out there waiting for the guy to respond. And of course that is a really bad method of training, but it's a very traditional method of training for many of the punching and kicking styles.
No, would you say holding your hand out there is a traditional way of training? Holding your hand out there?
For beginners, when they do that in order for the other person to respond, because obviously they're not going to respond at speed. They're not going to respond with a great deal of recognition of the technique.
I suppose if we're talking about beginners, I suppose
but that's where we start with the syllabus. Of course, we start from somewhere. So my method of teaching that kind of thing is always, I much prefer to get people to actually just push against each other. So they still do the step, because you need that time to respond as a beginner. So you still need to recognize the step, but then of course later on that step will disappear. In fact, all steps will disappear, and you'll be a much closer range. But you'll at least know that range because you've done it as a push. And when you do it as a push, you can actually see a physical response, because the person will be pushed backwards. Whereas a false punch that doesn't actually hit the person doesn't give you any degree of sensitive distance timing. So I'm always talking about push.
Do you think, though, that distance and timing is quite an elaborate sort of idea for beginners to understand? if we could we not say that, you know, no, actually, what I would say is that the first thing you want to get right with beginners surely would be the technique itself. Oh, we can skip body conditioning, right?
Well, no, we can't. No,
well,
we can't.
No. I don't want to go in at body conditioning because we can all say fitness and flexibility and whatnot. Fine. But if we just move up and say, right, this is how you do a punch. This is how you technically do a punch, and then move on to distance and timing. I mean, what's more important?
The first important thing is you can't get anyone to punch until they've conditioned their hands. Okay,
right.
So you get them to punch thin air, but don't get them to punch the wrong range at an individual because they're not gaining anything from that. They may as well be punching thin air.
Yeah.
Okay. So if people are going to start from the beginning, then they learn to make a fist. They learn to then punch thin air. They learn to use the complete range of the punch all the way out and all the way back.
Yeah.
Then they're going to start conditioning their hand to take an impact. Once they've conditioned their hands to take an impact, and of course they continue to train that punch in various ways and all sorts of different punches, then after they've conditioned those hands, they can start punching pads and so on. And once they've done that and they have the confidence in that arm, then surely with the training of pushing an opponent, they have the range and the design and the technique to be able to actually step and punch. Now, also the person they've been pushing will have the capability and be stimulated by the movement and be able to respond, in other words, be able to defend against that punch. So having a good punch as an attacker, having a good attacker because of his distance timing and you know his technique will work, you don't move, you get hit. Okay, he's hit a pad. Of course, he can be careful with you, but at least his range will be right. So even if he does it slowly and his elbow is upside down, his fist is upside down, and he reaches your fist, reaches your chest as an example target, as he reaches your chest, he's twisting that fist. That's at the point when he knows he's reached you and he's doing an external front punch, internal, you feel it inside or you feel it in your back, because he's taken it straight through that energy. And he's created that energy because of the simple fact that he's punched so many times and conditioned, including, doing push-ups. So he's actually pushing the weight of his body with that punch. If he's pushing the weight of his own body with that punch, he can surely be capable of pushing another person's body with that punch.
Right.
And if he's hitting a pad, same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and a big bag, if you've got access to a big bag. So safety equipment or exercise equipment is so important. So that as an individual thing from the start of beginners is important. Distance is important. But then what we do is we start to go off into a tangent of lots of different uses of hands, because the speed of a punch or the closer distance makes a punch become more difficult to do, because in effect you can't form a punch in the time you've got, and it's better to have open hands in the first place.
Yeah.
So you'll then start using open hands, slaps, palm strikes, finger strikes, all that kind of thing. And then of course you have wrists, so you can actually lock and escape using wrist movements. So you're utilizing the wrist to position and to transform people's anatomical grip on you or your anatomical hold on them. And so once you get through that, so you're doing forms and so on, which incorporate all these different movements. And of course, you're changing your persona, you're changing your attitude towards those. And after that, what do? We also do, locks against the leg. We press against the leg. Number 6 kick block. Number 6 hand block is a typical example. Number 8 hand block is a typical example, where we're wrapping the leg around the back of our opponent's leg in order to do the palm strike and change our angle to to be able to throw the technique and energy towards the target, to the lower ribs. And then we might have number 5 knife defense, where we can wrap the arm and lock the elbow and then put our leg behind his leg, so that when we press our knee against his leg, he starts to fall. Where do we go then? We stop.
Yeah.
But we stop, James. We stop. Well, what we should be doing is get that person on the floor and hold that lock and get him down and keep him in that lock. And at that point, you can then decide, shall I break or dislocate his shoulder, break his arm, or shall I force him to submit, as in a sport? But the fact is, you've got to know you can do it. And I think where our martial art falls down, or at least our training falls down, is we don't get to that point because we get them down, then we let them get up again.
Well, what about the syllabus itself? And we have discussed syllabus being a vehicle, but doesn't the syllabus in some way inhibit us to move forward? Because let's face it, like, you know, if for your next sash, you need to know, you know, kick block 9 and 10 and hand block 9 and 10, why would you then do that and then want to carry it on if you know that
it's not in the syllabus?
It's not in the syllabus.
Yeah, but we've already come to the point that the syllabus is a vehicle and not the be all and end all. So
yeah, but they want to get to the next grade. Their next grade isn't predicated on whether or not.
I know, and that's where a lot of the martial arts falls down, is because a lot of the people who train martial arts, 90% of them.
I'm going for him. I'll tell you what. Just get my chopsticks as well. Wait there. I got him. I just hit him with it. Never mind. Okay, he's gone now. He's gone. Sorry, yeah. Sorry to break up the flow there.
Yeah, that's all right. There's 90% of people really believe that they're doing a martial art when all they're going for is belts and so on. Okay, so it's really important to recognize that the syllabus is only that vehicle, and nothing stops you from going beyond that vehicle. Only your limitations of your own that you give those limitations.
What about the limitations of the instructor?
That's what I'm talking about. The limitations of the instructor will obviously limit your future understanding of it.
Right.
Okay, so the less the instructor tells you or asks of you, the less you will ask. So that's the difference, isn't it, between a coach and a teacher? A teacher will give you the information. A coach will drag that information out of you. By asking you questions. So, and that's the beauty of you know, being both, if you like, is first of all to teach them the syllabus, but then say, well, why are you doing it? Show me what you can make from what I've just given you. Give them the spanner, and then let them find out what size nut it fits.
Right. I'm with you. Why didn't you mention sparring just then when you were talking?
Sparring's part and parcel of it. We could have gone on forever. Remember how many different elements there are within martial art. Sparring is something that when you become free of that structured syllabus and you start to use the structured syllabus in a free way, in your method of utilizing it, because your style of sparring, or maybe similar, but always slightly different. And it would totally depend on what you, as an individual, your size, your weight, your age, would prefer to do. And of course, your anatomical makeup. You may not be a great stretcher, so you really don't want to be kicking anywhere. You may not like the idea of kicking because you fear being thrown or grabbed the leg. And so you'll try to keep the legs low because you've got sense. Okay, but other people are very fast with their kicks and can fool people with their kicks because they have that flexibility and speed and power. So there's so many different ranges of styles of fighting, even from the same martial art. And that's why it changes, because as people see different people do different things, they go, oh, sweeping. We love sweeping. And then everyone starts sweeping. The next thing you know, no one's sweeping because they found a way around it. That's how it is.
So where would you say, like, the limitation in the way we, how do I word this? Because it's not, I don't think it is.
It's like you said, you knocked it on the head when you said it's about the instructor. The instructor has got to, every instructor has got preferences because of what they're capable of doing or what they're comfortable in doing.
Right.
So they have preferences, but the syllabus doesn't necessarily limit anyone, because it is just a vehicle. Once you understand that the syllabus can be used for so many, or a move can be used for several things, so many things, it can be used in lots of different guises as well. So if you do take someone down, I mean, for instance, a movement of your hand like so, it might be an elbow, but of course it could also be grabbing someone's head. And we do that when we do Lau Gar, and we grab the back of the head and we elbow in the face. Why not create that as a throw? And in the self-defense in the GY Shu, divisions there are done in the self-defense, but not necessarily seen within the syllabus. But all they are is alteration of a hand. They're not. It's not as if they don't exist. It's the useful of them.
But if we're looking at, I mean, I think Kung Fu is a wonderful science. I think Chinese martial arts do have a great history of great science. And from what I've sort of, nitpicked from you, and obviously, that's been passed on to you as well. But if we look at the science of martial art, and we always talk about it's a speed-based, speed basis, to our science
based on speed. Yeah.
Science based on speed. Now, if we look at, I think that's possibly, interpreted in the wrong way a lot of the time. Because if you say, "Oh, we've got a science based on speed," just punch them now. Just punch them, hit them. If they grab you, hit them.
That's right, because that's the preference. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So if they grab you on the lapel, just hit them.
Yeah.
Right. And that, to me, that makes perfect sense. And if you go back to your old Bruce Lee books, that was what he was talking about. Someone grabbed you on the wrist, you poke him in the eye, because it's that simple, right? But Go on. I would argue then, okay, yes, it's that simple. And I think Bruce Lee was talking a lot about self-defense in those books, obviously. But where we lack, not where we lack, but where you could see people lacking if they take the science of speed, literally, if you like, and I mean literally, is someone grabs you on the wrist, you poke them in the eye. What if you miss poking them in the eye, but they've still got your wrist? What do you do then? And what if they then grab you with both hands and they throw you, etc. And I think that's where we sort of.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a little explanation to you that listeners might be interested in, because I think the misinterpretation of the word speed.
Okay. Right, yeah, let's talk about that. That's great.
The martial art based on speed, okay? Science based on speed.
Can you just move your mic closer?
Yeah, of course. How's that?
Oh, that's better.
Okay. So, the misinterpretation of a style based on speed, whereby you think the simplest way is the fastest. Yes, that's one interpretation of the speed, that if someone grabs you, you poke them in the eye, because it's a more direct technique, an effective technique. But as you say, people may not be able to utilize their arm in time. They may not, because they're being grabbed or whatever. And then people say, well, it doesn't work then. So they're misinterpreting the understanding of the concept of speed. If you understand Lao, if you understand the Kung Fu in general, there are no backward motions. That's why when we refer to stepping back, we don't say stepping back, although a lot of people, of course, use that terminology. We say consolidating the position.
Right.
So we drop into a position of strength to utilize the position of our stance to create more energy, okay, in defense or attack.
But we could just step back.
Yeah, it is. We can step back because they're stepping forward, but because they're stepping forward, in reality, we're not stepping back.
No,
we're going with.
No. I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying, you're saying we never step back to consolidate. I'm agreeing with you.
No, I'm saying we are consolidating our position and stance.
Excuse me, we're consolidating, but I'm saying if you want to just step back and run away, then isn't that Kung Fu as well?
Yes. We're not talking about running away. We're talking about the fighting aspect. So,
all right.
When we talk about the fighting aspect, we're talking about the situation where an individual is coming towards us. If we move at the same speed of that person, then technically we're not moving back. We're staying the same range. The fact that the whole fight is going that way doesn't mean a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say someone's retreating if you want to in a battle, but all they're doing is try to encourage you to chase them, so they can then establish an attack.
Repositioning.
Repositioning, yeah.
See, for laws of armed conflict, right?
Yeah.
In the army, you know, if they don't have if they shoot at you, right, and then they drop their gun and run backwards, they're technically not a threat anymore. But the laws of armed, so the laws of armed conflict are quite sort of malleable, particularly for grunts, because, you know, you need it to be easy to understand. So you say to the grunts, oh, hang on, they're not a threat anymore. They're repositioning to go to their, you know, stash of other weapons. So shoot them.
Yeah.
Right, and that was how it worked. That was how they sort of justify it. So anyway, sorry, go on.
But it's right. It's like King Harold, you know. He couldn't hold his army. They were victorious with the Vikings up top. So up north, they marched for 3 weeks, back down again. They were knackered.
They want to go up north for?
To get rid of the Danes.
Yeah, but...
You know, they got rid of the last Viking king there. They killed him off, and that was it. So they came back down all happy and everything, knowing that they were being attacked by the Normans, King William, right? And so they lined up on a hill. And what did William's people do? Is they just turned around and ran away. And so what did it do? It got all Harold's badly, and you know, big morale, badly organized group to chase them, and all they did was split, and their cavalry just mowed them all down. And that's how Harold, apart from the fact that he got a bit of an arrow in his eye, that's how he lost the battle. Okay, but he might not have been around to see that by that time. Anyway, that's just strategy. Okay, so going backwards is not necessarily, you know, trying to escape. It's just merely making a better situation. Consolidation. Yeah. So, oh, your mic's off.
Oh, sorry. I had a burp, and then I must have not have unmuted it.
You tell the whole world that, don't you, James?
Well, there's no proof of it.
There is now. It's
on
on.
not. Well, actually, I just made it up.
Oh, wait a minute. You can edit it.
Oh, that's right. I hold the power of the edit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to that situation, talking about speed. Okay. When we go forwards with a technique and we do a strike like so, do we pull it back to strike like so, or do we go like that and then rotate?
Hang on. We're on a podcast now. You can't be doing demos.
Oh, okay. Sorry. When we do a back of the hand technique and then rotate it round to do a palm strike, do we pull it back? No. Right. That is the interpretation of speed. Okay. Right. You do not need to pull it back because the rotation in the second technique is the power for that technique.
Right.
Okay. When you do a punch and they move backwards, do you pull the fist back again? No. You can then open the hand, do fingers. You can do a leopard's paw. You can do, you know, fingers. You can do anything you bloody well want to. Okay. And right. Finger strike to somewhere else. You can then raise it to do an uppercut. You can do an elbow, but you're following the movement forward. You never pull the hand back in order to throw a punch forward. That's what we mean by speed. Okay. Right. A science based on speed, or martial art based on the science of speed, requires us to find the fastest way to the target and to maintain that speed whilst you're dealing with that target. If at any point in time you return back to your original position, you give the opportunity to the opponent to retaliate. So the option is speed to reduce the other person's option to retaliate. Going forward constantly. Okay. The quicker you go, the less they're going to shoot at you.
Okay.
That's why the who dares wins, eh? That's why the SAS. I mean, I think any soldiers, obviously, they get down there, they go, no shit, you know, if we keep going back, they're going to shoot at us, so we might as well go forward because we'll die anyway. So just keep going forward. So you're trying to find flank, you're trying to find, you know, different directions of trajectory, and you're making sure that they are under fire all the time. And you're going forwards because the faster you go forwards, the less chance they've got of winning. And they're going to have to pull back at some point in time, in which case that's when you can get them.
Agreed. But it didn't work like that in Afghanistan because they had IEDs.
Yeah.
And if you move forward,
Yeah.
you might be set up for a knockout.
Yeah,
That was,
but generally that's the tactics of like the SAS and that.
Yeah, I know. I'm kidding. I'm making that.
But no, that's absolutely a spot on understanding, perception from your experience, and we've shared it with the world.
During the war. Hey, listen, I don't care. I'm in San Francisco now. I don't care. That life is behind me. So is it?
My dad was at Dunkirk.
Yeah.
I told you he was at Dunkirk, didn't I?
Yeah, I thought heroes run in your family, literally.
That's right. Yeah, that's where a policeman came to the pub in Birmingham and said to my mother, he says, your husband's missing in Dunkirk, and she said, no, he's not. He's over there in the pub getting the drinks. And that's a true story. And you know why? Because he was an artillery driver, pulling guns.
Yeah.
And they dispatched him to drive a general around or a high-ranking officer around. Guess who's first off the beach? Hey, high-ranking officers. They're the first off the beach. Guess who's going to take them off the beach? The guy driving the car.
Oh, yeah. Guess
who's going to be in the pub first? The guy driving the car.
There you go.
Heroes running our family.
Being in the OC's driver has its benefits.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So go on. We were talking about. You said Kung Fu is about forward.
Yeah. The science of speed does not necessarily. Yeah. The science of speed, or based on speed, does not necessarily mean that we're trying to punch them faster. What we're trying to do is not reduce our opportunity to go forward by moving the hand backwards. So the whole, it's like, again, there are techniques within the syllabus, within the forms, where you completely twist your wrists as far as you possibly can in one direction, physically trying to twist it, knowing that in the next movement, it wants to, without your effort, it wants to, spring back. That increases the speed and the energy of that second technique. Yeah. So the first technique might be a defense or a deflection, where you're twisting the wrist in one direction in a clockwise or anti-clockwise way, and then automatically that wrist wants to return back to normal, and so it does so, and as it does so, you create a second technique without the effort of trying to develop it. It simply develops itself. Okay, and that's what makes speed and least amount of energy to create the most amount of effect.
Right, yeah.
Or least amount of effort, if you want, to create the most amount of energy. Right. So you can say it how you want, but that's basically what we're talking about when we talk speed. Okay, so all those people that think speed is about quick back fist, quick poke in the eye, whatever. Yes, of course, that's part of the strategy, but where that isn't applied is when you're very close in, and of course that kind of distance doesn't, may not give you any benefit, okay, because you're going to be grappling.
Yeah.
So it's about being able to deal with that grappling by rotations and by diversions and so on, and they've got to be direct. And of course, then you've got the sticky hands, which enhances that.
Yeah.
Because through sensitivity.
Yeah. But we can define speed in different stages of our training, though, can't we?
Yeah,
we can say, for example, it's an open-ended thing, but look at sparring, right? You can generally say, back fist reverse fast punch, that's speed. Yep. But you can also, look at speed in sticking hands, as in having the sensitivity
to feel it. But in the case of the back fist, the speed comes there because the person least expects you to go forward or be able to reach them at that range.
Yeah.
And that's why it becomes fast, because you're doing it the fastest possible way. In the sense, you're throwing the punch before you've even stepped, which means they can't calculate your movement forwards because they haven't seen you step. Yeah. So all they get is the fist right in front of their face. By the time you've stepped, that fist has hit their face, right?
And
And that's a cross step, back fist, reverse punch, which is a typical age-old technique, and and that's defining speed.
That's a very
but at a
visual,
different range.
Yeah, different range.
Yeah.
If someone grabs you, and this is where we can interpret speed, right? So, like I said before in that Bruce Lee example, you can say, "Oh, someone grabs you on the wrist, I'll poke them in the eye." Or if someone tries to put you in a lock, that's probably a better example. So if someone tries to put you in let's just use a basic wrist lock, right? Like your most bog standard, small hand wrap or whatever. Mm-hmm. The concept of speed within that, if someone grabs your wrist, tries to put you in a lock, I would say the concept of speed, this is after the fact, after they've grabbed you, is to recognize that lock and immediately counter it with your own lock.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that. But of course, what you're doing is you change your anatomical position.
Yeah.
So basically, if someone's grabbing your wrist and you rotate that wrist, their hand that's holding your wrist has now been turned upside down. And because it's upside down, it's weaker. And because it's weaker, the speed of your reaction creates an element of surprise and counterattack. But that's speed. You can't wait for the guy to get a grip on, because if he gets a grip on, once he's got a grip on, you now are going to have to counter lock it or try to escape.
But this is what we're saying is it's so hard to not hard to define speed, but it's hard to explain it, I think, because if you see someone reaching out to grab your wrist, they just whack them, hit them.
Yeah, we always do that example with hair grabbing, don't we?
Yeah, right. So, but
you're a good example of now. That
listen, there's a pot calling the kettle black a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
God's sake, mind you, there's a bit of a reflection. It must be the Californian sun. What can I say?
That's why I didn't want to turn the light on earlier, so I'm a bit pixelated. But yes, you're when we talk about grabbing hair, we talk about self-defense. So, in girls' self-defense, where they might get their hair grabbed, as soon as you grab hold of the head of hair, the first thing they're going to do is grab hold of that hand. The reason they're going to hold onto that hand is to prevent you from pulling their hair away from their head, in which case now their head will come with the hand. Yeah. And so you can't pull it, so they're not going to be in pain. Straight away, they've got to do something to create a counterattack. But in the second instance, someone grabs your hair, bang.
Yeah.
You punch them in the ribs. Yeah. That's two different scenarios, dependent on the capability. Yeah. Both speed, but dependent on the capability of the person who's training. You cannot expect a woman, and total respect, a non-trained woman or a young guy who gets his hair grabbed to be able to suddenly throw out a punch at someone's ribs without the possibility of breaking fingers or wrist, okay, if they are not trained. So it's not a great idea for them to do that. But if they completely and utterly control their hair, and now they control the hand that holds that hair, using the elbow, locking the elbow inwards to prevent them from moving that elbow, and then taking the attack to them with the other hand, with the free hand, going straight for the throat or whatever, and then taking them off balance, then you have an immediate counter-offensive. So, but they can only hit you with one hand because the other hand's trapped on your head.
Yeah.
Okay, and it can't pull your hair because you're holding it there.
Well, it can slightly. It can
with you. Not if you've got your hand on top of their hand.
Yeah, but they can still grip with their fingers, can't they? And it can still
but you're just holding on the wrist. And you can even go forward and actually extentuate the wrist, make it stretch. So but it depends on your preference and on whether, you've got to find out whether these things work or not by practicing them.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm not going to say anything works. As you know, I already have that motto: nothing works without practice. If you don't practice it, don't expect it to work. So don't turn to me and say, "Oh, if you do this, it's going to kill someone." Because I'm going to say to you, "Well, how many people?" Can you let me know?
Yeah.
Because if you've killed that many people, you've got to be good.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But there may be a bit of legal problems there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's just it's an interesting point, isn't it? How do you define speed? in certain in certain ranges of the fight, in certain scenarios of the fight.
Yeah, but
Go
on.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, based on Lau, the style is based on speed, and the principles of speed are not necessarily the speed of the hand to the face as a fist or a poke in the eye. The element of speed is based on the constant strategic element that you will never take your hand away from the target and always go towards the target in defense of yourself. So you never extend the time it takes for you to counterattack. And a lot of martial arts tend to do that because they don't understand that element, and they can't provide a principle to or a technique to use that. They don't know how to. So what do? They go, oh, I mean, watch them. What do they do? Oh, I'm going to punch him, pull back, punch, pull back, punch. Sorry, I'm shaking the video.
No.
So they're pulling the hand back, constantly trying to repunch. And every time they do it, they give the opportunity to that person to grab hold of their arm and prevent them from punching again if they've allowed them to punch in the first place.
But isn't it dependent on what, and we talk about style, what style you train? Right? Yeah. So if you do jiu-jitsu or judo, right? Yeah. You ain't going to train to punch someone in the face or to, whatever, as soon as someone grabs you.
Yeah.
That's right. Your goal in that is to control them.
Yeah, but they want them on the floor. Once they're on the floor, if they can lock their arms or keep them from prevent them from covering their face, they're going to try and punch them out. Yeah, they're going to just keep on punching them out. But you're right; they don't necessarily train that much on punching. But are we talking about the style, or are we talking about individuals? Because individuals will.
I'm talking about a training method.
Yeah,
I'm talking about a training method, right? So if your training method is, and this is what I said earlier on, is we use judo, use jiu-jitsu. Are they styles or are they training methods?
Yeah.
Like, so if you've got a training method where you can't punch, you can't kick, you've got to grab them, put them on the floor. Your mindset in that, in your training is, someone grabs me, right? Oh, I'm going to get them and, throw them, use my hips, in a reap and whatever to get them on the floor.
Yeah.
Whereas you might I would have a different interpretation of that from the off. Obviously, if I'm doing judo, training judo, then I understand the rules are different. But in my head, I'm going, right, someone's grabbed me. Oh, I just want to hit them,
Yeah.
So when we're talking about people's perception of speed, it's entirely dependent on their training, the training method
and the science we have to decipher. We have to decide on what is actually faster than the other, because we know damn well a punch is pretty much the fastest thing, and more than a punch. Before you can make a fist, you've already got fingers. So surely a poke in the eye is faster. Yeah. But then you have to look at range, because if you're a very small person striking at a very tall person who is eyes, it's going to take longer. Why does it take longer? Because you've got longer distance to travel. Yeah. So you've got to define speed in that sense. Would it be quicker for you to actually punch him in the groin? Because that's how low you are. Yeah. So it's a total different. It's all based on individuals as well.
Oh, 100%. I think it's a really good conversation, though, speed. I think more people need to be talking about how they define it within their own system of training, but particularly Lau Gar people.
Certainly Lau Gar people should define speed, because that's what their style is based on. But an awful lot of styles that make up their style don't define speed in any shape or form, and tend to believe in their own strength and tend to believe in their own techniques, which are quite elaborate sometimes. And they don't know how to break them down, and so it becomes, over a period of generations, it becomes a completely useless art in terms of fighting, and so they don't fight. And so, I mean, take a look at 98% of Tai Chi, right? And they don't fight because they practice on the whole extremely slowly. And when they do practice fast, they practice, getting out of locks. Someone's grabbing them, they're getting out, putting them in locks, and so on. So, but they'll do that at a slow speed initially, and then, of course, hopefully some of them will be pretty fast at it. But you and I have both seen videos where, you know, it just goes to pot as soon as you start fighting a stand-up style, punching and kicking, and then there's none of that goes. And people, you know, often say, "Oh, yeah, but grabbing and locking is good." It is if you can avoid the punch.
I think a lot of it is a lot of these comparisons between styles is purely down to the rules in a sporting context, right? So you got all the stand-up fighters says, you know, my punching and kick, you know, that's the best, you know, if I went up against a grappling guy, they couldn't touch me and all the rest of it. And the grapplers would say, same thing.
Yeah.
But if we were then to both step into each other's arena, right? So here's an example, right? So you remember you used that guy who did Tai Chi against that Chinese MMA fighter, who was out to disprove people, right?
Yeah.
So that Tai Chi guy stepped into the arena of the MMA fighter. You know, completely stupid because he had no clue, about that fighting.
It was at a disadvantage to start with.
So I would then turn that round. So you could say, right, okay, if the Tai Chi guy then said to that MMA guy, right, let's do stick in hands, because that is another fighting arena, or it's a training method. Training arena. Then that MMA guy would be completely, completely outmatched.
He would be completely outmatched, but the problem you've got is that the MMA fighter has the belief in his ability to wreck the other guy because that's his intention.
I get that, but we're talking about training arenas, though, because it's a sport.
Yeah.
And it's like if you said to a judo guy...
Training and contest are two different things, and that was a contest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, if you say to a judo guy, we'll do semi-contact fighting...
Yeah.
You know, he ain't going to get a look in.
No, he's not.
You know, but if you take the semi-contact away, then the judo guy is obviously going to have an advantage to a point because that's all he trains.
Yeah.
So
many styles, if you want to call them styles, can't call them traditional styles. You've got to call them sports. You've got to call them martial sport.
Right.
You can't call them martial art. Yeah. But there are many elements of those sports when they are not training within the confines of the sport where technically they can't use the techniques they're training in the confines of their sport, right? That's where it comes to its own then. That's where they say, well, yeah, actually I'd be poking him in the eyes, but can't do that in the sport. Well, that's where they don't train it that much or can't use it that much. And there's your problem with martial arts, whereas no one can really define self-defense until they've actually been in the arena of fighting. And that's then, of course, why you get so many people going, well, I've been a bouncer and I've been in that arena and it's worked. It's worked because the other guy, A, wasn't a bouncer, and B, has no fighting experience whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? There's a totally different ballgame.
And C, chances are he was drunk.
Yeah, so the self-defense element is already on his side. The possibility of success is already on his side. So don't, for me, when someone says, well, I've done this and I've done that. And I mean, how many people say, well, I've been in the army and I've done
has no relevance. Yeah,
it's absolutely no
relevance whatsoever.
No, because when you're in the army, pretty much most of the time, you've got a frigging gun. So you don't need to you don't want to be doing any bloody fighting with anyone. Just go, shut up.
No thanks.
Shoot at them. A bit like, what's that film?
John Wick.
No, John Wick. No, I was thinking of that scene with Indiana Jones where the guy starts spinning the sword around and he just pulls the gun out.
Hey, Harrison Ford improvised that because he had a bad... he was meant to do a sword fight with the guy. Yeah. But he had a bad hand or something and he couldn't do it. So he said, I'll just shoot him. And I was like, yes! That's what you do.
Yeah, so it's that kind of. There you go. There's a situation for you, and depending on how well armed a self-defense individual or in a self-defense situation is, defines the outcome as well, depending totally on how well he understands the weapon, how quickly he can devise the weapon, as well as his skill in using the weapon. If he's going to fight someone at an advantage to him. So that guy who's got an advantage to him also has to understand the danger of that weapon, which is why people get cut by knives, because they don't perceive the stupidity of just trying to handle a guy with a knife. It's very, very completely different kind of situation. A knife's worse than a gun at close range. A gun only goes in one direction. A knife goes in every direction, and you can't hold it. Certainly without being...
It's bleeding sharp,
Yeah. And often you can't see it because it could just simply be a little blade. So you may never be able to hold it. But at least with a gun, you may be able to hold it and point in another direction.
Yeah.
But then... when people talk about firearms and that, and we may as well cover firearms for a second, when they're talking about disarming someone with a firearm, yes, there are techniques that can do that. Obviously, we're talking at a touching range where the guy's basically touching your head with the gun and, or threatening you with it from that close range. But the second you go out of that range, forget it. Yeah. It's a projectile that you're not going to see. So it's impossible. Okay.
Well, and it's anyone who's going to use a gun, to any certain skill level, will not let you get that close.
Of course, exactly. There's no way you're going to get that close. But even if you get that close, if you don't train that weapon, that's so much, just like they do in movies with horses, firing that gun so that horse gets used to the noise. Yeah. The first thing that people are going to do is flinch. Okay, as soon as you fire that gun, if they get the chance to fire the gun, even if it's pointing in another direction and that gun goes off, you're going to flinch if you're not used to it. That is enough time for the guy to recover and then fire that gun again. But this time, not miss.
It was interesting, because my wife's family live in Pennsylvania. Yeah. And over there, obviously you can carry firearms for personal protection. You have to have a concealed carry permit and all that. But you're talking about knives being, a massive problem. In Pennsylvania, while you can carry a handgun for self-defense, concealed carry, you can't carry a knife for self-defense, which isn't. But it's kind of like there's this perception, a knife is more dangerous than the gun, and I'd agree, but they're both deadly in their own ways. But it's kind of funny
when we're talking about close range, of course.
Close range, yeah. So, but anyway, I just wanted to say that anyway, mention that.
Crazy, In Canada here, I can carry a sword if I want, providing people can see it. Right. If I conceal it, then it's illegal. Right. If I don't conceal it, I can carry what I want. I can carry a shotgun over my back. Don't make no difference. As long as it's not loaded and as long as it's not concealed.
Yeah, right.
And that's basically it.
Well,
crazy.
Well, let's go back to unarmed. Listen, I want to finish this off by talking about one for the Lau Gar people out there, kick blocks 3 and 4.
Okay.
So can we do that? Can we go straight into that and sort of what the, major
we talked about 1 and 2, and we talked about 1 and 2 as being really defined for the benefit of the person who's attacking, really. Okay, giving them the opportunity to learn how to punch straight and so on. We talked about punching straight earlier.
Kick blocks, 1, 3, and
4.
4.
We're talking kick blocks.
Kick blocks, yeah, because we've got to catch up. You see,
did we talk about hand blocks previously?
We've talked about hand blocks 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Oh, okay. Sorry. There we go.
So we've got to get back up with the kick blocks now.
Okay. Well, kick blocks. Yeah, kick blocks. Yeah. Okay. This is really interesting. Kick block number 3, I do like, because there's people doing a front kick, of course, to you. This time you're taking your whole body off to the left. So it's all about your footwork. It's about being able to. It's effect a shuffle, but it's 2 shuffles. Okay. in reality.
Right.
Okay. So as you're going for the guy kicks and you're moving, you're drawing your leg forward and drawing the other leg behind. Okay, and of course you're striking at the leg and covering your head at the same time.
Yeah.
So this again is a method of attack. It's not a method of defense. It's changing the angle. It's changing the distance of a perceived target. Okay, again, same thing applies in number 1, 2. You're aiming for the first and slowest part of the leg, which the knee comes up. It's the first thing to move, but it's the slowest thing to move.
Right.
And so you're striking at the thigh again. And then after that, what are you going to do? You're going to kick him. Yeah.
Right.
So 2
okay.
attacks. It's a counter attack.
So once that person does the front kick for number 3 kick block, you start by facing them, don't you?
Yeah.
Now, when you're moving off,
are
you moving at a sort of, if we think of it as like a clock face, are you moving at sort of a 9, not 9, sorry, it's sort of 10, 11 o'clock angle?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Again, it's a really good thing for people who are training number 3 and 4 kick blocks, or number 3 particularly. It's a really great idea to decide on how you are on that clock face. Go to number 9, go to number 10, go to number 11.
Right.
Define what is fastest, define what is more beneficial to you. Remember that if you're going to do a long kick, you're going to have to be further away.
Yeah.
So 9 o'clock, if you like long kicks, is going to be better than ending up right close to them. But of course, to end the fight, why do you want to do a long kick? So you move to 11 o'clock if feasible. But of course, you've always got to move and strike. Remember that bottom arm?
Yeah.
Bottom wrist is a strike. So if you strike as the knee comes up, before he even gets the kick off, the knee comes up before the foot comes up, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
The knee's a lot slower. Strike the knee the second he lifts it. As soon as you've moved out of the way, you're striking it as you move. And immediately you've done that, you can now kick the other leg. So you kick the inside of the left leg with a side kick, and that's great.
So I want to talk about the definition of a side kick. But before I do that, when we do the movement itself, the shuffle, if you like, to the side, does there have to be a strike to the leg? Because a lot of people move and they just cover.
It's fine if you want to cover, absolutely. Certainly when you start, but do you want to prevent that guy from hitting again, or don't you?
Well, you are kicking the leg as a secondary technique.
But after, remember we talked about speed?
Yeah.
Define speed as being the fastest possible way. Okay. So that block, if you want to block, why not throw out it as a technique? Why not throw it as
absolutely. So
therefore, take the fight to the individuals trying to kick you. The fact that he's only just got his leg up to kick you and you're moving in already hitting him once makes him think about that pain, makes him stop for a second, hopefully, to think about that technique, to try to redefine his target, which is no longer in the position he expected it to be, by which time he's already been hit, his leg is down, the other leg is being attacked. You're already behind him. And after that, of course, you've got your other hand up, you've already struck him round. You can do a clothesline. You can do anything you want. Of course, it's not there in the syllabus, so you add to it.
Now, when the position you end up in as a defender, once you've shuffled off to the side, we'll call it, because some people hop, some people shuffle. Do you understand what I mean when I say some people jump, if you like, or hop?
Yeah, no, I know. But jumping is slower, and it's because you're in the air for longer, and it's far more energetic.
Yeah, but I've seen some people do it, and as I never liked it. I thought it was ridiculous. They'll hop onto one leg, and before their weight is centered, they'll have sent that side kick out as well. So it's like they're hopping, kicking.
Yeah, that's right. A beginner will do that, and hopefully a high grade won't do that. For the simple reason is, if you hop onto one leg, you've got no energy to be able to throw that palm out. That's that edge of the palm out, because you're not standing on two legs. You've not in effect consolidated your position. As you shuffle forward, you're literally taking the body forwards and to the side and striking at the same time. So you've got forward motion, albeit slightly off to the side.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why you can't change that forward motion if you please, if you can find a way around, and then you'll move in with that strike. But then straight away, you're going to get that leg from the knee down, or the knee, you know, and that's the back leg, his left leg, striking at that because that's the only target available. If you want to kick past him, like a lot of instructors teach to do the side kick past the person, then when it comes to a real situation of self-defense and you manage to do that quickly, your automatic response is to what?
Kick past
kick straight past him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's, I mean, it's a self-defense situation. Create it as a self-defense situation. Don't create it just because it exists as a syllabus technique.
Right.
Syllabus is there for a reason. It's there to be used and utilized. And if you don't utilize it, then you're right. Forget all these hand blocks and kick blocks. Don't make them work. They're pointless in training.
In terms of the position the defender ends up in after they've shuffled, move off to the side. Now, if you imagine because your arms are to the side, you know, covering high and low, if you like.
Yeah.
Your shoulders, okay, or your center line as a defender, should it be directly facing the person who just threw the kick once you've moved, or can you get away with being a bit more side on as you do it? And the reason I'm asking you this is because I want to define what side kick is. Now, is a side kick a kick emanating from your center going out to your center? And when I say your center, I mean the point between your shoulders, the center line of your body. Does that kick down your center line?
I love this question.
Turned into a side kick?
Yeah.
Or can we interpret a side kick as you're kicking out to the side of your body? So you're not following your center line, you're following your hip line, if you like. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's a really good question. I love it. It's a great question because when we train in lines, we always tend to kick in the direction that we're going in the line. So the side kick is defined by having to turn around to kick out. But what that does is it teaches you to kick straight. In other words, knee comes up, you kick as you twist the foot. So as you're twisting the foot, the leg will go out straight.
Yeah.
But in real terms, and there's nothing wrong with that, training side kicks, but why do you want to do a side kick when you've got a front kick, which will be faster to the front? Okay. Do a side kick to the side, and you know what? The side kick will be faster to the side. So, and that could be at sort of, 1, 2 o'clock. It doesn't have to be 3 o'clock.
Yeah, for real.
It's basically aiming at whatever target.
Yeah.
So you're aiming. I would aim to the side. Also, if you're considering low kicks, side kick would take so long to get up high, okay? Unless you're doing it from the front leg and shuffling across and doing a side kick with the front leg. If you're doing a side kick with the back leg, how long do you think it would take to get from the back all the way up to someone's head and twisting your body, which then prevents you from doing anything else should it fail?
Yeah.
So when you look at a person standing in a fighting position, his legs are not in the center. His legs are to his left and to his right, at the back and to the front. So there is no target for a low kick directly in front.
Yeah.
A kick to the groin is a front kick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the thigh might get in the way when you're trying to kick him to the groin.
Yeah.
And so you have to be extremely accurate. So, and also a side kick won't go under the groin, which will be even more fun.
Could you
So a
argue
side kick, well, let me just explain.
Sorry.
The side kick is literally going to the side because that's where the target is. Knee, shin, even thigh. But knee and below is great.
So when we say it's a side kick, we literally mean, in the true sense of it, a side kick is out to the side, right?
Yeah.
Not the shape of your foot turned to the side.
No, not necessarily, because a lot of people can't turn that foot out to the side. they can use the hip to twist and strike, but they're kicking with the heel, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, but you get that definition from an awful lot of different martial arts, and over the years, of course, people see the way people do it, so they pull their foot to the side and they lift their big toe up and point the other toes down to kick out with the edge of the foot.
Yeah, so like the knife edge.
Knife edge. And the problem you've got, of course, is how many people go into the street and have side kicks with bare feet on. Because as soon as you put shoes on, especially trainers,
you can't
if you do that, you're going to break your ankle.
Hey, listen. What I'm saying, you don't want to get hit with that heel, do you? Can you see that?
No. Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh, sorry, I just held up one of my, for all you listeners, one of my snakeskin cowboy boots.
Yeah.
There you
Sad.
go. Hey, excuse me. I say stylish.
Yeah, I've got some.
All right. So does that make you sad?
I got leather ones. I bought them in Missouri. Yeah. I always wanted some, and I got some. And yeah.
Well, if it ain't endangered species, I'm not interested. Oh, no.
Okay, so
right. So we were defined. But going back to the side kick, you see, like that's why the side stance in particularly kickboxing, for example, and they do use it a lot in full contact kickboxing. The side stance,
but they do it from the front leg.
Yes, but they're doing it from the front leg. So in effect, that is a side kick. Yeah,
it's to the side because they're turned to the side to reduce the target area.
But we can also suggest that because a kung fu is an open-ended interpretation of it, there's no reason why you can't be facing forward and doing a side kick facing forward. Is there?
When you train, you train it for basically to work your legs and work your hips. But in truth, in usefulness, take a look at again the arena of competition and tell me how many people do side kicks from the back leg in a competition. It would just take too long.
Yeah, no chance.
It's going to take too long. So the only way you're going to do a side kick in competition,
a spinning back kick,
is from the front leg. Yeah, well, that's a completely different element.
Exactly, yeah.
That's talking about the structure of range.
Yeah.
You're trained to misinterpret your range when you do that. Same as you do a fan suntak or a reverse spinning kick. That's to false. To change the range to a false range. Yes. So they think you're away.
That's a bug in that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. Right.
Number 4.
Let me just ask. Let's just make a point on number 3.
Okay.
Because you would finish. Let's take for example the finish. Right. You've done the strike. You've done the kick. Now both of you at this point, if you decided. On your range being quite close as you execute that side kick. Let's talk about tactical withdrawals in the context of the hand blocks and kick blocks.
Yeah.
Now, we won't get on to being knocked out of line, as in if you're the attacker in kick block number 1.
Yeah.
But if, just generally, because you don't want to be finishing, standing in their personal space, do you? It would be an idea to get into your head, I would argue, and I'm going to ask you what your thoughts are. I would argue it would be an idea for you to start thinking, even though you finished the sequence of techniques, but to withdraw out of their range and then finish the demonstration.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Well, I would say there's 2 ways of looking at it, and people do look at it in 2 ways as martial artists or self-defense technicians. There's 2 different ways of looking at it. First of all, you've hit them twice. If they're still standing, it's best to run. You're in a good position to run past them and beyond. Okay. Yeah. But in obviously traditionally or traditional martial arts, to complete the technique, one would then obviously stamp out the kick, pull it back, and then withdraw stepping back. You may need to step back again, and then even again to get back into a position that you started from. But that's only defined as a martial, a syllabus element, okay? I would much prefer people to be all over the place. Like knife defense. Wherever the knife falls, you pick it up and deal with it, right? That's what I like. So because they're done in the term of 6 moves or 6 different elements.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying for people to withdraw back to the original start position.
Yeah.
I'm talking about withdrawing for the sake of recognizing distance.
Yeah.
So you've just completed it. You don't, whichever direction you're going to withdraw in.
Mm-hmm.
It's I would want to move out of their range at least.
Yeah, but if you've kicked them in the back of the leg and you've hit the other thigh, then they should be down. And it would be a great way of training to actually, although obviously you can't do it at full pelt, I would suggest that you may well could do it in that sense where you're doing a side kick to them. And remember where your other hand is.
Yeah. Right. So explain for everybody.
Pull it. Your other hand is up by your head. Okay. You can do the side kick. You can pull them across if you want to. But that's, of course, not in the standard syllabus. But we're talking about where someone is training.
Pesky syllabus.
Yeah. But syllabus, I got to repeat, syllabus is only a vehicle. And this is what limits people from being self-defense technicians to martial artists. And there's nothing wrong with being a martial artist. It's a beautiful art. But use it as self-defense. It has to be defined differently. And I have to go back to a previous podcast when I've said, look, if you was to do a form as if you were fighting, it would never look the same as the form you would do for a grading. And if you train it, it would be so different in terms of how small the techniques would be, how short they would be, that no one would even recognize it.
Yeah.
Only you would recognize it. And they might be able to pick up certain elements, certain punches, certain movements, but it would be totally different. So you can do the third kick block, and you could throw the technique out, and you could perform it completely, not knocking the person down, withdrawing back in a fighting position. They withdraw back in a fighting position, and there you define syllabus. That's where you define martial arts. As soon as you take it away a step further beyond the art and start defining the art as a useful technical self-defense strategy, you are kicking that leg. You would expect that to draw them down. If the range is correct, you should be able to do a nice side kick to that leg, and you should be able to bend that leg to take them down. Now, we don't, as we talked about earlier, continue our syllabus through to takedowns, but there is a typical example of a takedown. And if you've already done your strike, what's your hand doing now? Just covering yourself? Or are you going to now do a side kick, bring that hand round, grab the side of their face, and pull them over that leg as you do the side kick? Make it a throw. You can create a throw from that, but people don't do it when they define syllabus.
Yeah, but you can't blame people for that.
I'm not blaming them.
Yeah.
I'm not. What I'm doing is I'm encouraging them to think about it as a if you talk about martial arts and say martial arts works, I can understand completely when self-defense people or grappling people or whoever says, I don't agree, it doesn't work because that technique doesn't work. You have to define an element of usefulness to it by taking it that step to complete the technique until the person is now beyond his fighting capability, beyond his ability to respond back again to you. You have to win the fight in every element of hand blocks, kick blocks, imaginary fighting as in forms, and so on, and sticky hands beyond the ability. Once you define your sticky hands to become sensitized, then you start to raise that game.
I guess it's an attitude, right?
Yeah. So and of course that matters a lot.
When you're doing hand blocks and kick blocks for syllabus, the attitude generally is quite passive. It's quite, I know what I got to do. Oh, let's just go through the motions. That's fine, right?
Yeah.
But if you start thinking, but if you start thinking about application of your deadly skills, you know, then the attitude, then then it changes. It changes. The reason for you doing it could have, you up the ante, so to speak. So, I guess that's, in some way what we're talking about as well.
Yeah, because 90% of martial artists won't up the ante because they'll go, this is how it works. This is what the technique in the syllabus is. So all they'll try to do now is exactly the same thing.
Replicate
at speed. They'll replicate it, but at speed. Unfortunately, the technique done in the same way cannot be done at speed. It can be done faster, but it can't be defined as fast. See, right? This is the ABC phenomenon again.
I like the Eagles, right? The band the Eagles.
Yeah.
Now the Eagles took a lot of slack, right? Because if they did a live gig, they would try and replicate the record sound, as best as they can. So they weren't necessarily doing a live set, so to speak, but trying to replicate their album sound almost exactly in the old days. And a lot of musicians gave them a lot of flack for that because they're like, "Oh man, you're live, this, that, and the other."
Yeah.
So what I guess you're saying is, try to make the set live, instead of trying to replicate your album sound, So
yeah. I think that's a really good analogy. Yeah.
Right.
I like that.
Let's move on to kick block 4.
Well, kick block 4 is a similar kind of situation, isn't it? Again, you're attacking the person who's attacking you. This time he's attempting to do that side kick, isn't
from behind.
From behind towards the front.
Right.
Yeah, so that is a very basic way of training that side kick. But because of the distance and the fact that the kick is coming forwards, although he's lifting the knee, if you go up, the side kick's going to come close to you. So what you're doing in effect, if you understand the way that people teach number 4, is they're putting all their weight backwards on the back. Yeah? They're putting it on the back leg. So...
Someone just sneak in there?
They just snuck in, They just snuck in.
Yeah.
I think they're asking me, I got to cook dinner. I'm going to do some Chinese prawns.
Cook dinner? You're in the middle of an important podcast here. We're putting the world to rights.
Okay, well, we'll finish this technique.
We're nearly done,
Yeah, so... don't forget I'm 8 hours behind you, James.
So no, but you see, you're on video now, so all these little gestures,
I can't go.
I can see. You can't go, just be quiet.
Yeah.
So
okay, so because, as you understand, the technique to escape is to move all the weight onto the back leg,
Right.
So that would define the fact that you are now not attacking the thigh. Now what you're doing, it's a side kick. What are you going to attack? The back of the calf.
Yeah, right.
Because as the kick comes out, you're literally allowing the kick to come out.
Yeah.
You're allowing the kick to be made complete. But as the side kick comes out, you are now striking at the back of the calf. What does that do? It goes, ouch. It's going to hurt the back of the calf.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to place the foot down. As he places the foot down, his body weight's going to come forward. And as we know by the description of the kick block particularly, you now kick to the head. The biggest problem with this kick block is people imagine they've got to come from this low position to kick up to the head, right? That's hard work. What they're actually doing, they're going in a low position to be able to escape the kick. So they're coming back, as in the same way as in Phelan Tune, number 5 kick block, number 6 kick blocks. Let me just.
Go on.
I've got to complete this, James. Otherwise I'll forget where I am.
Sorry. Yeah, cool.
Okay, and of course, as they strike now, they're already redefining the weight of that stance. If they've struck, they're now going to kick because the person is coming towards them. They're kicking the head definitely. But the head is coming down to the foot because of the way they've been struck.
Yeah.
Okay, that's basically how the number,
so
whatever we're on 4 is.
Right. So when we do you're being attacked with a side kick, which is coming towards you in a linear direction.
Yeah.
So you're taking your body off to the side, like in kick block number 1, right?
No, you're stepping back the right leg, and so you're actually stepping backwards this time.
Not to the side.
not to the side now.
Oh shit! I've been doing that wrong way.
No, because the kick is coming linear. It's coming directly.
Yeah, it's coming
towards you.
linear. So you,
Yeah. Well,
same
you don't
with the
move
front.
the left. You don't move the left leg.
No,
You're moving
no,
the
I'm
right
not.
leg
I'm
back.
not moving. Yeah, I'm not moving my left leg.
Well,
That's
there's no.
stuck.
Okay.
I'm moving my right leg back.
Yeah, there's
in a
no
line.
point in. Okay. Oh, in a line is fine. There's no point in taking any further than the line.
Yeah,
Because
right.
your front kick is the target. Otherwise,
Yeah.
your front leg rather would be defined as the target. If you,
Right.
it's like number one when you turn into like a horse step.
Hang on, that's what I just said. That's what I just said.
Oh, right, turn it to the yeah. But when you say move to the side,
Oh, you thought
you're
I'm,
not actually
right.
moving to the side.
Oh, I'm
you're
sorry.
moving into a side stance.
I'm sorry.
But you're not
Jesus,
moving off to the
you
side.
just had me. I was about to just throw my mic away and never come back. I was like, have I been doing it wrong? Eh?
No. You
Right.
are moving the leg backwards, and
Yeah.
of course, the further off it is, the less chance it's got of actually reaching a target, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now you're brushing or striking off
Right.
that leg.
That a lot of people. Now I'm going to put forward a thing.
Conjecture.
Okay, yeah, a lot of people think it's the first move of the first set, but it's not. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 8th move of the first set, is it not? When you've just
in
sliced
and
in,
out. Yes.
and you're generating
yes.
that cut and then striking out.
Yes.
But it is a common mistake that a lot of people think that is the first move of the first set. Oh, you're pushing down.
Yeah, you're not pushing down. You're slicing back and striking. You're dragging the heel of the palm into the calf, the top end of the calf into the fat part of the calf.
Yeah.
So that's a really good technique to strike because it hurts.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember, when you're dragging muscles, it's as good as punching into them. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Like in parts of Lau Gar Loopy,
When you're punching down, we have discussed that. Yeah.
The ribs, the abs. Scraping down the abs, which forces the person down. Yeah. Okay. Rather than punching into the abs where the guy would be strongest.
Yeah.
So you're creating pain and you're changing the, because of the way that the muscles are defined in terms of their, directional of the sinews of the fibers. Yeah. So you're literally hitting at the calf. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And it hurts. And of course, then they're going to put their headed head down as they put that leg down.
Theatrical.
They're going to fall forward. Yeah, they're going to have to kick hard in order to come forward, the same as the front kick. Yeah. And as they do so, of course, when you knock that leg down, they're going to, of course, fall forward. And as they fall forward, the head comes down. As the head comes down, your kick doesn't have to be amazing high to the head. It just simply kicks the head as it comes to your foot.
That's where the theatrical license comes into it. Because you've got to think, if you're being struck on the leg, if it causes pain.
Yeah, because if you do strike them hard, you're not going to have that many partners, unfortunately.
No.
So, and there's another problem when we talk about martial arts and self-defense is obviously we have to be wary that the people do not want to be hurt every time they practice a technique in which they are going to be defined as the loser. Okay, in other words, a pre-set technique as an attacker. They're expected to be the loser. They do not expect to be hurt while they're being the loser, because guess what? They won't want to be the loser again.
Right.
So, and then you're going to run out of people to train with because you're just never going to have any attackers. Right. So yes, they should attack you really well, but they should expect a little bit of decent protection as you strike them. Okay. No harm in doing it, but there's a great harm in doing it with great power. And that defines the difference between, unfortunately, martial arts and then practicing as a self-defense technique. You cannot define self-defense to be real because it won't be real until you do it realistically. And you can't do it realistically in a self-defense class. You can only practice it as close as damn it to it. Okay? Sure. And that's so many people do self-defense and go, yeah, but we do it for real. No, you don't. You'd have no one in your class. Everyone would have broken legs and necks because you'd hurt them so much. Yeah. And then, of course, they say, let's put these pads on. And then, of course, what we saw the other day.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle suits.
Let's put the big suits on. Yeah. And now we can do it for real.
Yeah.
How is that real? You can punch hard. But how is it real? Listen, the guy can't defend himself.
Have you ever seen
like Mr. Blobby?
He's like people. Well, there you go. See, it's real in Blobby Land. It's real.
Yeah.
Football mascots.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. They're trying to punch each other. They get angry with each other, football mascots, don't they? And they're punching at each other. And no one ever gets hurt until they take the top off.
Something like that.
Then they get punched in the face. How
Brilliant.
stupid is that?
Brilliant. Right. So let's wrap up number 4. I would maybe suggest that, again, like a lot of the kick blocks, if you're doing something with your legs, you're forgetting what you're doing with your hands. So as you're striking out with one, let's just consider what the other hand is doing.
Yeah, the other hand's going to be in the center.
Yeah.
And again, consider what not only are you doing with it at that time, but what are you going to do with it afterwards?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Anyway, I think, shall we call that a day? Shall we call that a day? We've been droning on for a while.
I got to put my Chinese on.
I got a lot.
I go and cut all the veg up, put me shrimps in.
Yeah.
They call them shrimps here. They don't call them prawns. They call them shrimps.
Yeah,
Mind you, bloody huge.
They're huge, are they?
But they left the tails on. I cooked them and I have to pull all the bloody tails off.
I'm fine with that. I don't. Me and
prawns.
Seafood.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Kung Fu Podcast. As ever, if you enjoyed that, please head over to YouTube, subscribe to us, hit the notification bell and whatnot. Go on our Facebook, give us a like, subscribe to us on Podbean. That would be an awesome thing. Or you could leave a review for us on iTunes. We'd appreciate
I'm
that.
First to apologise about the quality of this video. Because of the light and time of day here.
I think it's more the quality of the content, isn't it?
Yeah. I apologise for that too.
Yeah, there you go.
It's going on for 7 o'clock and I haven't cooked dinner yet. So.
Oh, well, I would feel sorry for you, but it's 5 to 3 in the morning here, because I have to work on your time, Mr. Newbie.
Yeah, sorry about that. Some of us to go to work as well. So
that's true. I'm
training at the moment, so.
Absolutely. Guys, thanks ever so much for joining us. We really hope you enjoyed that. And, take care of yourselves. And we'll see you again on another episode of the Kung Fu Podcast. And it's bye from me, James Still. And it's goodbye from him. Who are you?
Steve Newby. I apologise. I'm on my bed again, which I've always been for these podcasts. And I haven't got on my computer the ability to get one of them.
The screens. Hey,
so
I'm actually here, I'm actually in San Francisco.
Of course you are, yeah. I can see how the sea's been moving all this time.
Can you?
Yeah. No.
All right. Guys, take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Concentrate on your enemy's weak points. The eyes, the throat, the knackers.
Hi guys, thanks so much for joining us on the Kung Fu Podcast. If you like that and you want to find out more about us, you can head over to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or YouTube and find us under SJN Martial Arts. And also guys, this podcast is available on Podbean and iTunes. So, until next time, take care of yourselves and we'll see you again on the Kung Fu Podcast.
Karate punch is like an iron bar, whack. A Kung Fu punch is like an iron chain with an iron ball attached to the end and it go whang.